In June of 2024, I left the United States for an 11-day trip to the South Pacific, visiting 3 different countries. I took 6 flights through these countries, and in this video, we will be covering the second flight within the area, Air New Zealand Flight 101, Auckland to Sydney. Of all the Air New Zealand flights I took on this journey, this was the only one on board one of their narrowbodies, an Airbus A320neo. Thank you for joining me on this 3-hour journey, and if you enjoy content like this, please remember to like the video and subscribe to my channel. I arrived in Auckland on Air New Zealand Flight 5 from LAX. My group itinerary said that I had a 1-hour layover in Auckland, but because my connecting flight to Sydney was set to board 45 minutes prior to departure, it looked like I only had 15 minutes to half an hour to get to it. But luckily, the flight from LAX arrived half an hour early, which bought me more time. And because this was an international to international connection in Auckland, we didn't need to go through customs. All we had to do was re-clear security, which was fast. We touched down in New Zealand at 5:30 a.m. Our flight to Sydney, NZ101, is the 7 a.m. departure to Sydney. Our gate for today will be 15. It turns out there is a Qantas flight to Sydney that departs at the same time as mine, and then there is another Qantas one and a LATAM one both going to Sydney departing in the same hour. Gate 15 wasn't too far away, but because of the layover time I rushed over there. This will be my first flight on an A320neo. The Airbus Neo variant was on my bucket list for many years, up until I flew on 2 Delta A321neos some time ago, but I still haven't taken the shorter and original A320neo, so I really didn't want to miss this flight. I just managed to make it in the middle of boarding. This is the only photo I could get of the plane. The aircraft that will take me to Australia is Zulu Kilo November Hotel Alpha, a 5-year-old Airbus A320neo delivered to Air New Zealand in 2019.
Kia ora, good morning. Thank you for joining us on NZ101, shortly bound for Sydney. In preparation for departure, please stow your bags.
I am in seat 19E. Unfortunately, because we are on a group ticket, I couldn't select a window seat, but I'll try to get some wing shots when I can. The legroom was disappointing to say the least. Not the worst I've seen, but it's much better on their wide-body jets. The seat padding isn't very soft, but they have good headrests. The lower seat pocket is a double seat pocket, which I thought was pretty cool. The tray table is tiny. Like, come on, you must be joking. The seat pocket has a safety card and an air sickness bag, just the 2 essentials. The crew handed out these earbuds during boarding, which can be used for the in-flight entertainment. As you can see, this A320neo has the A350 style overhead bins. I only know of 3 airlines that have these on their A320 family aircraft. Air New Zealand is one of them, as they have these on their A320neo and their A321neo. We've also seen them on Delta's standard A321, and apparently Hawaiian has them too on their A321neo. Air New Zealand's Neo aircraft have these in-flight entertainment screens. They're pretty much the same as the ones on their wide bodies, which is good because they are good screens, small but responsive, and they have a massive selection of movies, TV, games, and music. The content available is pretty much the same throughout all of their planes that have these screens, and that's one thing I like about Air New Zealand. They're consistent with their in-flight entertainment, but only when they actually have the screens. One thing you should be aware of is that they don't really have these on their domestic aircraft, like their standard A320, their ATRs, and their Q series. Unfortunately, I never flew on one of their domestic planes on this trip. This is the route map. The flight info is shown on a drop-down menu.
Flight at 2 minutes must now be suited for takeoff.
was an actual breakfast meal service on this flight. There was a choice between chicken sausage and overnight oats. I went for the chicken sausage. It was actually a decent meal. The main course consists of sausage, eggs, potatoes, and ketchup. There's also a fruit cup and a chocolate croissant. For a 3-hour flight, this was great. My only complaint is that I don't really like ketchup with sausage and eggs, but that's more just my own taste. And yes, they served a beverage with it, but I forgot to film that. But there was a choice. Later there was another round of service. The crew offered cups of water to anyone who wanted one. For the final round of service, the crew handed out the airline's signature multicolored hard candies. I went for a green one this time. Then we'd begin our landing in Sydney.
Your bags including large electronic devices such as laptops must now be stowed. Please stow your tray too.
And that brings me to the first of 3 countries I'd stay in on this trip. As you probably noticed, this video is a lot shorter than most of my trip reports. I didn't get nearly as much footage as I typically do. This is the case for many reasons, like the tight layover, not being at a window seat, and just being tired after the last flight. But regardless, I hope this video was somewhat helpful and informative. This was the only narrow-body jet I took with Air New Zealand after all. Their international narrow-bodies, like their Neos, are definitely not as comfortable as their wide bodies, so if you're flying on literally any international flight with Air New Zealand, I definitely recommend getting on a flight with a wide body like their 777 or 787. But even then, their narrow bodies are not terrible, and this was still a great flight. The service was loads better than what you'd typically see on a US or a European carrier on a 3-hour flight. Final score for this flight will be 9.1 out of 10. I'd still recommend Air New Zealand. Just try to get on a wide body for the best experience, though that probably won't be possible if you're flying domestic. So I know I said that I filmed 5 different Air New Zealand flights, but this is probably going to be my last video on this airline until at least December. I'm going off to college really soon, and while I'll be there, I will not be able to voice over my trip reports. I'll try to get my Qantas video uploaded before I leave, but after that, it will be a few months before I can upload more trip reports. I'll continue uploading takeoff and landing videos, but unfortunately, trip reports will need to be halted, and believe me, I am very sad about this. But this is going to be a big change for me and my personal life, so I'm going to have to focus on that at least for now. And just to be clear, I am not quitting trip reports. I have never considered that at all. There just will be time periods of inactivity from now on. But I'll be uploading one more trip report before I leave, and in the meantime, if you are a new viewer, I have a lot of other trip reports already uploaded to this channel that are worth a watch. So thank you all for watching this quick video, and I hope you enjoyed it. Have a good day.